Imagine trying to parallel park your car to go grab a craft cocktail, but you have to wait because a massive freight train hauling a 10,000-pound aerospace satellite component is, crossing the street right in front of you.
Oh, yeah, just a casual Tuesday.
Right. I mean, it sounds like a glitch in a city-building video game. You are basically trying to run a high-end luxury hospitality venue in the exact middle of an active, heavy-duty industrial lumberyard.
The zoning alone is a nightmare.
Totally.
Yeah.
The heavy machinery and the customer experience are just entirely at odds.
It is a profound logistical clash. I mean, you are taking two completely incompatible realities. You've got unrelenting global freight logistics on one hand, and then premium leisure tourism on the other.
Yeah.
And you're forcing them to share the exact same stretch of pavement.
And that is not some hypothetical scenario. That is exactly the high-stakes reality playing out right now in Southern California. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking you into a dynamic, forward-looking exploration of urban development.
We really are.
Specifically, we're focusing on the massive, multi-million-dollar metamorphosis of San Pedro and the West Harbor waterfront down in Los Angeles.
It's a huge project.
Huge. And for our sources today, we are looking at official Los Angeles World Cup fan zone schedules, local reporting from Los Angeles Today, direct project specs straight from the West Harbor development site, and some recent Q1 and Q4 commercial and industrial real estate reports for the LA and South Bay markets.
Which really paint a wild picture, honestly. It is arguably one of the most complex urban planning tightropes being walked in the country right now.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack how a historically quiet fishing town and an intensely active industrial port is engineering this massive transformation to host the world's two biggest sporting events back-to-back.
It's unprecedented.
We want to know how they are pulling off this masterclass in urban planning, how they are managing that chaotic overlap of 18-wheelers and tourists, and what it ultimately means for the region's economy and reputation. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to really understand how a city achieves this kind of radical transformation, we have to look at the psychology and, honestly, the bureaucracy of urban planning.
Right.
Cities don't usually undergo this level of rapid, coordinated change just because someone thought it was a good idea.
No, of course not.
Standard infrastructure projects get bogged down in years of NIMBYism, environmental reviews, budget debates. To bypass all that red tape, you need a hard, immovable deadline.
Basically a threat of international embarrassment.
Exactly. And for San Pedro, that deadline is the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
Right. The World Cup is the alarm clock that is waking up this entire stretch of the coastline. It effectively forces the local government to clear all those bureaucratic hurdles overnight.
They have no choice.
None. And the focal point of all this urgency is the West Harbor project. Let's just talk about the sheer scale of what is being built here because it is staggering.
It's massive.
According to the development specs, West Harbor is a 42-acre district right inside the port of Los Angeles. They are developing a full mile of direct waterfront access.
Wow.
And they're packing it with 300,000 square feet of retail, dining, and entertainment space.
It is a massive footprint. But the real headline here is that this 42-acre complex hasn't just been built to look pretty for the locals. It has officially been selected as one of the Los Angeles World Cup 26 fan zones.
And if you are a soccer fan, you know the fan zones are where the actual cultural energy is, if you aren't lucky enough to actually be inside the stadium.
Absolutely.
And the schedule they've locked in for West Harbor is incredibly intense. I mean, they aren't just hosting the early group stage matches. They are operating the fan zone during the absolute peak of the tournament.
Right, the final knockout rounds.
Exactly. We are talking July 14th, 15th, 18th, and 19th of 2026.
And the centerpiece of this entire experience is a brand new 6,200-seat open-air waterfront amphitheater.
So right on the water.
Right on the water. This is where they will be hosting the live match broadcasts on giant screens. That includes the 2 semifinals, the third-place match, and, crucially, the World Cup finals.
Sitting right on the water watching the World Cup finals with 6,000 other screaming fans while, giant cargo ships float by in the background. It sounds incredibly cinematic.
It really does.
But I have to introduce some genuine skepticism here. Because we have seen this movie before. Historical data shows that cities often overbuild for mega events, they lose millions of dollars, and then they're just left with massive empty venues.
Classic white elephant syndrome.
Exactly. How is this not just another white elephant project? What happens if the infrastructure just isn't ready for this massive influx of international tourists who have no idea how to navigate the local roads?
That is the multi-million-dollar question. What's fascinating here is the strategic importance of this selection and, honestly, the incredible risk it carries.
Yeah.
West Harbor is one of only 2 official fan zones in the entire LA area hosting viewing parties for those final knockout rounds.
So they are taking on a massive chunk of the international spotlight.
They really are. Alan Johnson, who is the chief executive of Jericho Development and the director of communication for West Harbor, laid it out perfectly in the reporting from Los Angeles Today.
What did he say?
He noted, "This is the first big, major thing that's going to kick us off at West Harbor."
Wait, meaning this global broadcast is essentially their grand opening.
Basically, yes.
Which sounds absolutely terrifying from an operations standpoint. It's like building a massive state-of-the-art living room and inviting the entire world over for a housewarming party the very day the paint dries.
That is the perfect analogy. Using a globally televised mega event as a grand opening acts as a high-stakes stress test for a new urban space.
I mean, usually when you open a 42-acre commercial district, you want a soft launch, right?
No, absolutely. You want 6 months to figure out the granular mechanics. Like, how does the plumbing hold up when 6,000 people all try to use the restrooms at halftime?
Exactly. Or how do you route a sudden surge of 2,000 Ubers trying to pick up fans at the exact same time a shift change is happening at the shipping terminals right next door?
Right. If the traffic backs up onto the 110 freeway, or, the Wi-Fi crashes and people can't post to social media, or the food vendors just run out of supplies,
The whole world is watching.
the reputational damage would be instant.
It's like stress testing an airplane by immediately flying it into a Category 5 hurricane.
And that is the exact tension urban planners lose sleep over. But, it's also the mechanism for success. The risk is astronomical, yes.
Yeah.
If it fails, the narrative becomes about a disorganized port town that couldn't handle the big leagues. But if it succeeds...
You bypass decades of traditional marketing.
Exactly. You instantly establish West Harbor as a premier global entertainment destination, and you justify that massive initial capital expenditure, avoiding that white elephant syndrome you mentioned earlier.
High risk, extremely high reward. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because if the 2026 World Cup is the stress test for the plumbing and the traffic flow, the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics is the main event.
Yeah, no rest for the weary.
Right. The World Cup is just phase 1 of this timeline.
Precisely. Once the World Cup wraps up in July 2026, San Pedro doesn't get to take a breath. They have to immediately pivot to an even larger logistical hurdle.
The Olympics.
Yep. San Pedro's outer harbor is officially slated to host the sailing events for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics.
Which entirely shifts the focus, right? From the entertainment venues on the land, out into the water, and more importantly, to the broader logistical preparations required to move Olympic-sized crowds in and out of a working coastal town.
Oh, it's a huge shift.
And this is where the sheer volume of money and concrete being moved really caught my attention.
It's wild. The Port of Los Angeles is spearheading accelerated multi-million-dollar infrastructure projects just to handle the anticipated volume of people.
Yep.
The reporting highlights 2 massive line items specifically. A $22 million project to completely revamp Harbor Boulevard and a $32 million parking lot project.
Okay, stop right there. A $32 million parking lot. I mean, to the average person listening, that sounds like a typo. How on earth does a flat piece of asphalt cost $32 million?
I know, it's a great question, and it speaks to the hidden mechanisms of coastal urban development.
Okay.
When you build a parking structure on an active waterfront, you aren't just pouring asphalt over dirt. You are dealing with coastal soil, which is prone to liquefaction during earthquakes.
Oh, right.
So you have to drive massive concrete pilings deep into the bedrock just to stabilize the surface. Then, on top of that, you have to engineer highly sophisticated subterranean drainage systems.
Because of the runoff.
Exactly. You cannot have the motor oil and chemical runoff from thousands of tourist vehicles washing directly into the Pacific Ocean.
Wow. So it's not just a parking lot. It's a heavy-duty environmental containment system that also has to support the load-bearing weight of Olympic broadcast trucks and security infrastructure.
Exactly. And you have to grade the entire site to account for projected sea level rise over the next 50 years.
Which is not cheap.
Not at all. That level of heavy coastal engineering is incredibly expensive. And the bids for that specific parking project are going out in the spring of 2026.
which means the timeline is incredibly compressed. Construction on these projects is expected to begin in 2026 with a targeted completion in 2027.
Right.
Meaning they have to be completely finished just ahead of the 2028 Olympic Games.
It is an intricate, almost impossible dance of urban planning. You look at a quote in the sources from Mike Galvin. He's the director of waterfront and commercial real estate at the Port of LA.
Yeah, what did he say?
He said, "We're excited, but we're racing to get everything done."
Racing might be the understatement of the decade.
Truly. I mean, think about what is required here mechanically. You are routing heavy machinery, excavators, and thousands of cement trucks through a town that is already hosting a World Cup fan zone.
Which is insane.
And you are doing all of this on an immovable, globally broadcasted deadline. You cannot call up the International Olympic Committee and ask for an extension because, a supply chain issue delayed your concrete pour.
No, the games are happening whether you're ready or not. Which brings up a logistical puzzle I kept trying to solve while reading these development plans.
Yeah.
How do you completely overhaul the infrastructure of a coastal town? Moving tens of millions of dollars of concrete and rebar without completely paralyzing the daily life of the people who already live and work there.
It's the ultimate paradox of urban redevelopment, honestly. You have to disrupt the current flow of life to build a better one, but you can't actually stop the local economy while you do it.
Right, because the locals still need to go to the grocery store. The commercial fishing boats still need to dock and unload their catch.
Yeah.
The small businesses still need their delivery trucks to get through Harbor Boulevard. I am honestly amazed at how you segregate that heavy industrial construction traffic from pedestrian tourist traffic on a granular street-level basis.
And that logistical puzzle brings us to really the most critical layer of this entire deep dive.
Okay.
Because to truly appreciate the difficulty of this urban transformation, we have to zoom out from the tourist attractions, the amphitheaters, and the Olympic sailing courses.
Right.
We have to look at the economic engine running in the background, because San Pedro is not some abandoned, empty waterfront that is being gentrified from scratch.
No, not at all. It is an incredibly active port and a thriving industrial sector. It's basically the engine room of the global supply chain.
Exactly. And this is where those commercial and industrial real estate reports we looked at really explain the underlying tension.
The Q1 and Q4 reports.
Yes. The South Bay industrial market, which surrounds all of this new development, is deeply tied to port activity. And the ports are booming right now.
Booming is an understatement.
The Q1 reports show that the Port of Los Angeles saw their total TEU volume, that's 20-foot equivalent units, the standard measure for shipping containers.
Right.
They saw that increase by 5.2% year over year.
And right next door, the Port of Long Beach saw a staggering 26.6% year-over-year increase.
It's massive.
And to contextualize that for you listening, a 26% increase in volume isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. On the ground, that means an exponential increase in the sheer mass of steel moving through the area.
Absolutely.
It means hundreds of additional heavy drayage trucks thundering down the 710 and 110 freeways every single hour. The volume of heavy freight moving through the specific geographic bottleneck is immense.
And because of all that freight, the surrounding industrial real estate market is incredibly tight. The reports show a vacancy rate hovering right around 5.3% to 5.8%.
Let's break that down for a second, because a 5.3% vacancy rate sounds kind of abstract. What does that actually look like for a business trying to operate there?
Well, a 5% vacancy rate in industrial real estate essentially means there is zero breathing room.
Wow.
If a warehouse tenant decides to move out on a Tuesday, there are 3 other logistics companies in a bidding war for that exact same building by Wednesday morning.
So it's cutthroat.
Very. Demand is fiercely outpacing supply.
And because of that demand, companies are paying a massive premium. The average asking rents are sitting around $1.43 to $1.60 per square foot, which is exceptionally high for industrial space.
Oh, yeah.
The reports point out that this demand is largely driven by third-party logistics companies, distribution centers, high-turnover e-commerce fulfillment, the usual suspects. But there's another very modern twist to this industrial demand that really surprised me.
You're talking about the advanced manufacturing sector?
Yes. It isn't just boxes of retail consumer goods sitting in these warehouses anymore. Advanced manufacturing, space, and satellite companies are aggressively expanding their footprints in this exact same region.
It's fascinating.
We are talking about companies building autonomous factories and rocket components, leasing hundreds of thousands of square feet in places like Torrance and Hawthorne, which border the port area.
And we have to explain why aerospace companies want to be next to a congested port in the first place.
Right.
It's basically a matter of basic physics. Rocket boosters and satellite components are often simply too large to be transported via traditional highway overpasses or rail lines.
They just won't fit.
Exactly. They require immediate deep water seaport access so they can be loaded directly onto recovery barges. They physically have to be there.
Okay, so if we connect this to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I think you actually mentioned this earlier.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you start to see the ultimate urban development balancing act.
Right.
On one side of the street, San Pedro is attempting to maintain its historical and economic status as a critical, high-volume node in the global industrial supply chain. They are servicing megaships, housing massive aerospace manufacturing, and moving millions of tons of heavy cargo.
And on the exact same street, they are simultaneously reinventing their waterfront as a premium, global tourist, and luxury entertainment destination.
Yes, you literally have 18-wheelers hauling satellite components and shipping containers, sharing a zero code with tourists looking for like an artisanal coffee before a World Cup viewing party.
It is that sushi restaurant in the lumberyard analogy come to life.
It really is. It is a juxtaposition that most city planners would actively try to avoid. High turnover logistics and luxury entertainment are fundamentally incompatible land uses.
Yeah, they don't mix.
Heavy industry requires reinforced, wide-turning roads for trucks, 24/7 noise allowances, and strict security perimeters.
Right.
Whereas entertainment requires highly walkable, pedestrian-friendly streets, aesthetic landscaping, open public access.
So what does this all mean? Why are they forcing these two completely opposed worlds together? I mean, why not just move the entertainment district somewhere easier?
Because the reputational stakes are legacy-defining for the city of Los Angeles.
Okay.
If San Pedro pulls this off, it fundamentally rebrands the entire region. It proves that a gritty working port does not have to be an eyesore hidden away from the public behind chain-link fences.
Right.
It proves it can coexist with a 6,200-seat amphitheater and international media spectacles. It creates an entirely new blueprint for coastal industrial cities worldwide.
It redefines what a port city is allowed to be. It says you can keep the economic powerhouse of the engine room running at full capacity, but you can also make the engine room look really cool, put down some nice flooring, and invite the world in to see it.
Exactly. To quickly recap the incredible timeline we've covered today, we are looking at a highly compressed urban transformation where the 2026 West Harbor World Cup fan zone serves as the high-stakes grand opening.
The stress test.
Right. And that immediately bleeds into the 2028 Olympic sailing infrastructure sprint, which is forcing tens of millions of dollars in highly complex, environmentally sensitive road and parking upgrades. And all of this is happening on an economic tightrope, blending the heavy logistics of a booming space-age port with the delicate demands of luxury international entertainment. This raises an important question, though.
Which is?
Well, regarding the long-term psychological impact on the people who call this place home.
Right. And that is exactly what I want to leave you with today. It's a final, provocative thought to mull over as you watch these developments unfold over the next few years.
Yeah.
When a historically quiet, blue-collar fishing town undergoes a multi-million-dollar facelift specifically engineered for the world's cameras, what happens to the original soul of the community?
It's a tough question.
Once the global spotlight of the World Cup and the Olympics finally fades and the international tourists go home, does the town belong to the locals again? Or has the sheer gravity of this massive infrastructure investment forever changed it into something else entirely?
Yeah, do the people who lived and worked in that rugged port town still recognize it once the luxury flooring is installed?
Exactly. It's the ultimate question of urban evolution. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive, because understanding San Pedro's transformation gives you a real-world look at how modern cities actually evolve.
It really gives you a blueprint.
It shows you the hidden mechanisms, how local governments use the leverage of global events to bypass red tape and force rapid infrastructure upgrades. Keep looking closely at the changing landscapes around you, question the infrastructure you interact with every day, and keep exploring the hidden stories behind the cities you live in. We will catch you next time.